Okay, so this video is going to be a little bit different, but some interesting things have happened. I'm here on Bloomberg.com. This is an old article, but it's been getting some more attention in the last few days. And I'm not going to read the title for obvious reasons, because I don't want to upset certain people or certain organizations. But let's just say that it's a classic psyop. It's a disinformation campaign because obviously we're onto something. I mean, we must be, otherwise why would they be making articles like this? Now, obviously this isn't a difficult article to find online if you wish to read it for yourself. I'm not going to read it. I'm not going to give it any legitimacy beyond its obvious intended purpose, which is to dissuade those who are seeking more information about Tartaria, reset civilizations, mud flood, melted buildings, or any other such thing. Obviously, people have grown weary of old theories and controlled opposition to the mainstream narrative. I have a few theories about that, such as the waning interest in ancient aliens and other History Channel supported theories, which have over time held no water to scrutiny. I think the whole thing is preposterous. I think it's a fairy tale that plays on science fiction fascination and obsession. So naturally there had to be something else that came along, something that made a little bit more sense, and maybe it makes a little bit too much sense. So that's what this article is, trying to do, is dissuade people from continuing on the path of possibly a better explanation for our history, a true explanation for our history. As you can see, as I said, I'm not going to read it, but if you do read it, you will see that it's very lowbrow, very condescending, and I'd like to move on to some series of pictures, and I'll explain more. So yeah, let's discuss why this is so argued and so refuted by mainstream historians and mainstream quote-unquote scientists. I mean, look at the building. Look at buildings like this. We don't build buildings like this anymore. And so the knee-jerk reaction when someone says why is, why are you asking? You must be crazy. You must be uneducated. But I beg to differ. Perhaps it is the overeducated, perhaps it is the over-curious, it is the over-inquisitive who want to know more about the past. Whereas the lame, the conformists, the statists say, think in the now, think in the future, don't think in the past. Don't think about the controllers, don't think about the inheritors, don't think about the inconsistencies of the timeline. And they want to just relegate history to the waste bin, to the memory hole. Even though that the buildings of old were truly fascinating, and some can't help to be drawn in to the past and wonder how and why and who and where. I mean, just look at it. It begs to be discovered. It begs to be investigated. Why do we even tear down buildings like this? Why wouldn't we preserve them? Look how beautiful these were. Look at the way that people function within these cities. It seems like a different world. It seems like a different universe. Now some say that we're too idealistic, that we're not content with our lives, and so we seek escapism. But it's not escapism, it's investigation. It's a wholesome interest in how we got here, and who brought us here, and what it was before and what it will be after. You see, certain memories are illuminated now by devices in our faces or screens in our living rooms. But in the old days, memories were illuminated by kerosene lamps, candle lights, and fireplaces. So perhaps what we're trying to discover is what will illuminate our future memories, and what illuminated civilizations before and after. And somewhere in those dusty memories of our ancestors that were passed on through oral tradition, through literature, through art, there's clues to where we were, where we are, and where we're going. They tell us not to worry about things like this, that this is just an ancient civilization who had advanced. It's a skyscraper. It's a skyscraper built into the side of a mountain. And they just tell you not to worry about it. And this is just what we still can look at, and we can still study what has been destroyed beyond the point of recognition. How do you explain this? How do you explain a city built on top of a city, a previous city completely covered in mud? It would take hundreds of thousands, if not millions of years for this to occur naturally. This much sediment, this much buildup. But we're told that's just the way it was, and isn't that interesting? Yeah, it's interesting. It's very interesting. Obviously, this isn't real, but this is more of a representation of how architecture has changed over the eons, or over the epochs of our human existence. You notice the similarities, you notice the contrasting shapes, but there's always a recurring pattern, and it's a very triangular in nature, let's say. They tell us not to worry about this, and that the people who do worry about it are out of their minds and wasting their time. But mainstream archaeologists aren't wasting their time. Mainstream scientists and historians aren't wasting their time. But if you're not approved, and you're not vetted and credited by them, by they, whoever they may be, then you're wasting your time. How condescending and insulting is that what you find to be interesting is incredible. It's absurd. It's absurd, it's disrespectful, it's belittling, it's a lot of things, but it's not accurate. A group of closed-off gatekeepers and consortiums of business and control do not get to decide what's interesting or valid for you, your friends, your family, your audience. That's your decision. Don't ever let them control you by blatantly making fun. Or, I mean, look at this. This is a melted building in Paris. It's almost like they're trying to just rub it in your face. That if you think that melted buildings in the past didn't exist, or that there wasn't an event or a cataclysm that caused stone structures to melt, to disintegrate, to shatter into a million pieces, that you're crazy. But here they are, parroting it, almost making a jab at it by this illusion. This is what a melted building looks like. This is Petra in Jordan. They tell me that something strange didn't happen here, that this just occurred naturally, this kind of rounding and disintegrating effect. Once again, just absolutely absurd and insulting to imply that there isn't more to this picture, that you're only supposed to just say, ooh, ah, and then move on to the next thing. Something happened beyond Tartaria, beyond the mud flood. There was a great cataclysm that caused stone to melt instantaneously. So they can make fun of Tartaria all they want, and they can say that it's an exaggeration, a miscalculation of history brought on by ignorance and uneducation. And that's fine. We'll move on to the next thing. Just wait until they find out that we think that buildings have melted in the past, and then they'll work to discredit that. And they'll say that this is totally feasible, that anybody could do this, and we could do this now if we wanted to. Notice the hundreds of holes in the side of this mountain. Notice once again the rounding effect and the disintegration. But the statues and the stairs remain intact. If they can make those stairs and statues so intricate, why wouldn't they make the rest of the mountain that intricate and detailed and sharp and straight? Why is it all rounded? Why does it look like it's crumbling? Why does it look like it's been hit by a weapon? Why does it look like it's faced immense heat? This is in Algeria. We're not even told that things like this exist in Algeria. Where we're told that people only have simple huts. These are ruins. These are melted stones. This was under attack. I've never even seen this picture before. I found it shortly before I made this video. If anybody has any more information about this particular photograph, please let me know in the comments. This is Peru. Same effect. The rounding, the disintegration mixed with the sharp. Almost as if some things were spared and some things weren't. How do you explain that certain things were destroyed, certain things have a rounding and a disintegration effect, while others remain perfectly straight? The people who lived here lived in a high altitude environment and were still able to work hard enough to do this work. Now I know there's explanations out there, and once again, I suppose we're not supposed to ask too many questions, otherwise we might be labeled insane or uneducated. Very funny timing. Very funny timing, as a lot of people aren't so interested in outside space, spacecrafts, little green men. No, we're more interested in what happened here on Earth. This is the system of melted caves in Russia. This is the only photograph I could find. If anybody has more information, please let me know. But as it is described as a system of melted caves. What caused them to melt? Here we have an underground civilization, a drowned civilization in Italy. Same thing here with the warping. As you can see, tile mosaic floor discovered. Eerie statues submerged in the sea. Some say Atlantis, some say Tartaria, some say other things. But regardless, there's clues, there's relics, ruins of the past that we'll never find, that may have provided better explanation than an article on Bloomberg. Instead of merely just scoffing and trying to belittle people's genuine interests, perhaps you can look at the situation with a more open mind, a more aesthetic mind, a more beautiful mind, a more caring mind. That there's people who have genuine interest in the past and that are not merely willing to cast evidence aside that points to the contrary of the mainstream narrative. That there's more to our past than meets the eye. And then when they see something with their own eyes, they still choose to discredit it instead of embracing the importance of it. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.